So, the other day I had a bit of a discussion with someone about a lot of aspects of specifically Mario Party Jamboree that they don't really like, but I don't really mind personally. And that whole discussion has really made me think a lot about how Nintendo makes their games and how the communities view their games. Very often, people will look at the one aspect of games that they don't like, something that will be like a big turn-off for them. For Mario Party, for example, a lot of people, including the person I was talking with, really do not like how slow it is compared to a lot of the previous games. Or it could be something as small as not being able to fast over touch in the Thousand Year Door remake. Some people would just look at this sort of stuff and ask themselves, at what point does it just become nitpicking for the sake of it? Now, that's not an entirely unfair question to ask, since some people on the internet definitely push it to that extreme. But I don't know. Defaulting to that just comes across as dismissive. Or maybe even bootlicking action, as some people like to call it. Games are allowed to be criticized, even if they're really good. The better question to ask is this: at what point do the negatives outweigh the positives? People can have the complaints, sure, but oftentimes they require dismissing a lot of the good stuff in games too, generally in the smaller detail category. Once again, for Jamboree, one quality of life change that goes really underappreciated is that you can always see how far away you are from the star, and the map even does account for you. It's not something massive, but it's a nice quality of life that does save a bit of time that's just nice to have that the other games simply don't. Those kinds of details are almost always underappreciated extremely when it comes to discussing about modern Nintendo games. Unless you're specifically talking about the detail that is missing that the other games have. I do understand why this happens though. Humans in nature tend to be way more negative than positive to begin with. It doesn't help that some of the main platforms where you can talk about this stuff, like Twitter and YouTube, really like to promote negativity a lot more. Trust me, I would know. But it often does take away from the whole video games are supposed to be fun angle that they were meant to be since the very beginning. Whatever happened to just playing the games you like? It feels like most people nowadays are focusing way more on critiquing a game and finding everything bad about it to criticize, instead of trying to just find things to enjoy about a game and having a good time, which is really unfortunate. That's not to say that the negatives never outweigh the positives. They can definitely do that in some cases, and again, I understand that some people simply don't enjoy certain things of games for different reasons, or certain games entirely, and that's completely fair. But with how common this mindset is, it paints a lot of games in a way worse light than they would be otherwise, and makes talking about them in certain spaces pretty insufferable, and not just in Twitter, just in a lot of places in general. It also doesn't help that some people can be very vocally clear about their distaste for certain games. Even if their opinion isn't actually that bad, just making them very vocal makes it seem like their opinion is a lot worse than they actually feel. Or there's some that actually do really dislike these games, but then they keep playing them anyway, and because they're biased into thinking negatively, they're going to find more things to distaste for, keeping the cycle going even though they should have stopped playing the game long ago. And because they're very vocal, they just make it everyone else's problem, and it's just the one thing that you know those people for sometimes. There's some people that do nothing but complain, even though they keep playing anyway, and some people basically just see them. That's like the whole personality kind of thing. It's very common. Regardless of if the game deserves it or not, this kind of thing happens a lot. I don't know. This is just stuff that's been on my mind for a bit, but I got to really think about it very deep after that one discussion. I don't really have a conclusion here, but just taking a bit of advice. I don't think it would be a bad idea to occasionally just turn on a game and not focus on the quality or anything. Just try to have a good time, be it by yourself or with friends. Thank you all for listening to this little ramble that I was not expecting to turn into a video, but here we are. Please take care of yourselves out there, and try to have fun with the games you love.